Hey, thanks for stopping by Minnesota Black Robe Regiment here on Rumble and on YouTube. I come to this video with, should we say, a heavy heart. It was a week ago today that I sat in a courtroom in Freeborn County in the 3rd Judicial District that is now headed, if you will, by Joey Bueltel, Judge Joseph Joey Bueltel. He is the Chief Judge of the 3rd District. And as disgusted as I am with the performance of Kelly Dawn Martinez of the Albert Lee City Attorney's Office, I'm even more disgusted, not because I'm disappointed in their performance. I had no expectation on the part of either of them to maintain justice or do what is right. But I'm here with a heavy heart because Joey is guilty of being a shill. He's a fascist. He is absolutely a fascist. And in that showed in his performance. And that's what it was. It was a performance for those few people that were part of the media, that were mainstream media, that were there and taking part. I want to say Randy First of the Star Trib, and then the local Albert Lee reporter. The judge put on a show. And I can certainly talk a little bit about what Martinez has done to me intentionally by inflicting just an undue amount of torture by having to be in her presence. That was bad enough. But watching Joey Bueltel perform the way that he did on Thursday of last week was absolutely just, it was beyond the pale. So that would have been the 9th, and the man was chomping at the bit for Lisa to be found guilty. And moreover, he was chomping at the bit to lay into Lisa, and admitted on the record as part of the recording of the proceedings, admitted on the record to having a personal animus towards Lisa. Admitted it. He dressed her down in an unprofessional, uncouth, non-judicious way, and exposed himself for the leftist shill, the leftist fascist that he is. And when the records are available, when the court proceedings are available, when the transcripts are available, I'm going to be putting them up in their totality, unredacted, on the Minnesota Black Robe Regiment website. People need to see what happened. And if you've read the Minnesota Sun article by Haley, you'll know that the judge compared Lisa to a criminal in the sense of a career criminal, told her that she was worse than a drug offender because she couldn't be rehabilitated, told her that she was worse than a DUI convict because there was no treatment that he could send her to. There was no program that he could put her in that would rehabilitate her. He compared her to a lifetime thief who admitted that they steal just to be able to sell things online, to be able to make money, because that they prefer to do that over having a job. On and on and on. That's what this man did. And I use the word man to describe his appearance, because he isn't a man. A real man would not have spoke to Lisa the way that he did. And I don't care, Joey, if you think this is contemptuous. It is. I have contempt for you, Judge Bueltel. I have disdain for you. Disdain. And so while I was encouraged that you stood up to Martinez in the courtroom that day when she demanded that I not be allowed to watch the rest of the proceedings, I was encouraged in that moment, but what you did after was just absolutely disgusting. So why the title for this video? And I'm just going to get to it, okay? I want you guys to understand that, well, let's say it this way. I have some researchers. I have people who are internet sleuths, if you will, and they're very good at what they do. They do it for free. They do it on their own time. But I had at least 3 people, maybe more, but at least 3 people who were digging into this, and they are unable to substantiate the statement, and they're unable to substantiate the claim. And they've dug into this with some fervor. And I didn't tell them what they were digging into. I just said, hey, can you look this up? Tell me if there's a history of it. And so I'm going to show you this real quick. Are you ready? So this is the Minnesota Judicial Branch page or whatnot, if you will, for Chief Judge Joey A. Bueltel. He's in charge of the 3rd District, okay? He works out of Steele County, but he hears cases all over the 3rd District. He has a list of his education here, and he also goes on to list the things that he's won, the awards that he's won as part of his esteemed career as an attorney at law. And he's worked as in the Office of Public Defender. He's been the chief public defender. He's been an assistant public defender. But here's the kicker. He's gotten some awards. He's gotten the Clarence Earl Gideon Outstanding Service Award. Who cares? Most Trials Full-Time Attorney. Who cares? Best Client Success Story, 1998. Who cares? What I want us to focus on is the part that I'm highlighting right here, if you can see it. The Don't Tread on Me Award was given to him in 1993. Now, I don't know who awarded him the Don't Tread on Me Award. I've looked it up. I can't find any history of it anywhere. I'm not saying that it's not real. I'm not saying that it's fabricated. It could have been some clandestine, behind the scenes, rousing endorsement of his stand on liberty and his stand for freedoms and his stand for the Constitution. But what I want you to understand is this man is claiming that he won an award, the Don't Tread on Me Award. Now, Don't Tread on Me is an iconic American symbol represented through the Gadsden flag. And some of you are familiar. I flew the Gadsden flag behind me for quite some time. I decided to change it up a bit. I'm sorry, I worked all day, but this needed to be done. I decided to change it up a bit, but it's the image of the snake and it coiled up, ready to strike, and it says, "Don't tread on me." That dates back to the American War for Independence, to freedom fighters, to people who understood what it meant to resist tyranny, not just any tyranny, but the tyranny of an unjust British Empire ruled by a dogmatic adherence to the idea that somehow the king, and in this case King George, was the final law, was the law. And as Samuel Rutherford wrote in his magnus opus in Lex Rex, the law is king. Not the king is law, but the law is king. And what did Rutherford mean by that? That God's law is king over any ruler, over any person. And that played a heavy part in the foundation of the United States Republic. It played a heavy part in the history of resistance on the part of American patriots, and why they eventually decided it was time to go to war when the British fired the first shot, by the way, when the British became the aggressors against the colonialists. And in the American people, the colonial navy and others flew the "Don't Tread on Me" flag as a symbol of their resistance to tyranny, as a symbol of their resistance to governmental overreach and lack of proper representation in Parliament and in the courts, and on and on and on. That's what the Gadsden flag came to be, what people recognize it for. And Joey Bueltel is claiming, the fascist that he is, the authoritarian that he is, having admitted to having a personal animus against Lisa Hanson of the Interchange, Joey's claiming that at some point in his life he was awarded for his career, he was awarded the "Don't Tread on Me" award. And we have no idea why, and I can't find any history of it anywhere. Now, there again, I'm not saying he's lying. I'm not saying he's misrepresenting. What I am saying is that if this is real, if he genuinely was awarded this award, he's abandoned those principles. He looked Lisa Hanson in the eye and he said, "You are certainly a political activist, but you're doing it wrong, because as a political activist, as a socially active, patriotic person, your response," and I'm paraphrasing and adding to this now, her responsibility was to act within the bounds of the law, to go through the legislature to change what was happening. Tell that to Rosa Parks, Joey. Tell that to the Freedom Marchers, Joey. Tell that to the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., Joey. Tell that to Malcolm X, Joey. Tell that to all of the native uprising groups in the last 100 years. Tell that to your idols like, oh, I don't know, the Weather Underground. I guarantee you would have loved them. You are a hard left Marxist propagandist and an authoritarian fascist, Joey. And yes, I despise you and I have contempt for your position, because you have proven yourself to be a shill. And you've proven that you don't understand the law. But worse, you've proven you do not support all political activism. You do not honor all social activism. You only honor that which you deem to be relevant, that which you deem to be morally correct. The way that you spoke to Lisa Hanson, your boss, Joey, your boss, your government, Lisa Hanson, your ruler, Lisa Hanson, and the court in general, everybody that was observing, the way that you behaved, sir, was disgusting. And keep in mind that when Lisa asked for you to explain how the sentencing was going to work, your smart alecky little childish mouth response was, "You're your own attorney, figure it out." You're an ass. You don't deserve to be called Your Honor. You don't deserve to be called judge. What you should be called is a petulant child. If you don't like my rhetoric, I don't care, Joey. And here's what I'm calling for. As everybody knows, I do not advocate for violence. I do not advocate for the initiation of force. I don't advocate for force for anything other than self-defense. But I do believe in calls to action. And I believe that you should be inundated with phone calls to your office. You should be inundated with emails to your office. And you should see protesters every time you show up to do a case. Every time you show up to preside over a court proceeding, there should be protesters lining the walkways. There should be protesters lining the arrival points. There should be protesters circling every single building that you show up in to rule over. Joey. They should be civil. They should be polite. But they should also show how much disgust they have for you. You should be removed not only from your position as a judge, but you should be disbarred for demonstrating personal animus towards Lisa Hanson. You disgust me. And if I ever get the chance to tell you this in person, I will tell you this in person. You disgust me. You are a disgusting excuse for a judge. There is no justice in you. There is no moderation. There is no balance in you. You, sir, served Lisa Hanson injustice because you came to the beck and call of Kelly Dawn Martinez. And no, I don't believe you should be remain above the fray in the sense of you shouldn't be criticized. We have a responsibility to criticize you for the wickedness of what you did. It was horrible. And I am calling on every patriotic American in this region, in your district, and across the United States to inundate you with their disgust. Civilly, peacefully, and with dignity, but with no respect for your position or for the fact that you're a chief judge. You've already done your damage. And you need to hear from the people how disgusting you are. You are a fascist dictator in the making. And you've bought in hook, line, and sinker to your overlords in Fauci, in Hagel, and others. And once again, I do not call for violence. I despise violence. I do not believe in being the initiator of violence. I believe that the American way is I strictly defend myself. So I will take no part in any calls for violence against you. I will not take part in any calls for harm to come to anyone, but I will boldly declare that we the people have every freedom and liberty to inundate you with communications through your work-related forms of communication with our disgust for you, you fascist pig, you authoritarian swine. How do you sleep at night? Sic Semper Tyrannis.
Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, you are over the target. You are authorized to fire